Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka Savage Tech Man. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Welcome to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and welcome. We're going to be talking about May the 4th be with you, great things coming on Disney, plus talk about the new Extraction film of Chris Hemsworth, AMC and Regal versus Universal Pictures, and much more here on Geek Homeworld. Hi, I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and welcome to another episode of Geek Homeworld. And we're going to start first talking about, first off, I want to say thank you very much for everybody who's listened to the podcast and who'll see this. And we sure appreciate you, tuning in and listening to the podcast and being part of it. I hope everyone's doing well during this pandemic. What a time in history in 2020. I never thought we'd be in this situation, and it's just crazy times, I guess. And I just hope you and yours are doing as well as can be expected, and hopefully you're thriving through all of this and staying well and healthy. Just a few things, a little house cleaning. You can find our podcast at geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. That's geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. We're also on any platform wherever you find your podcasts at. That's where we are. So like Apple and Google Podcast app. I kind of like that one. It works well with my Android phone that I've got. So kind of like that one. We're also on different platforms. If you like following the movie industry, which we talk about here on the podcast, you can also check out Savannah on Film, and I host a radio show weekly from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. local time here in off the eastern seaboard of from Georgia here, from Savannah. And anyway, it's on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and it's on WRUU.org, and it plays on the internet there. And we also do a Facebook Live, usually under normal circumstances. I haven't been doing new episodes of this show lately because just the staying in place orders and trying to, stay with that. So hopefully getting back into the studio and doing some more new interviews there. That's Savannah on Film, but you can check out Facebook. We also have a couple channels on Facebook. Geek Homeworld Podcast. It's just Geek Homeworld on Facebook. You can go and like and follow us there. And then I have a Geek Homeworld gaming channel on Facebook. I'm trying to get that up and running. And of course, we're on YouTube, Geek Homeworld. So let's just jump right in and talk about some things that are going on. I've got my notes here, so this is going to be simple and quick and just talk about a few things. We've got some good news. We need good news, right? And with everything going on in the film industry and going on in TV, and everything is pretty much screeched to a halt in this country, and been very difficult for a lot of people. And we totally understand that here at the podcast, and we feel for you. I'm being affected by it personally, and we all are. So it's just something we're going to figure out together, and we're going to get through all this. And like it says, we will be stronger together, and we'll persevere. I'm an optimist. But one thing that really makes me happy is Clone Wars. Season 7, that George Lucas this was his baby, along with Dave Filoni, who's, helped a lot with The Mandalorian that Jon Favreau is heading up. And that's a fantastic show. And I can't wait for season 2 coming in October 2020. Hopefully it's still on schedule as far as I've heard it is. But anyway, we've got Mandalorian coming out in October. But before that, we've got a few things tied into May the 4th be with you, or May the 4th. And So that's just around the corner. As I'm recording this, this is April 30th, 2020. So that'll be May 4th. So it's a few days away, actually. And we're getting a few surprises. One will be the series finale. So we've got an episode or two, this one, and then I believe the next one. And then we're going to finish out the Clone Wars season 7 and finish out the entire series. So it'll be the series finale for Clone Wars. And may I say, they've come back with the animation, and it's so top notch. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen anything we're going to talk about, so I'm just putting that out there. But if you're caught up on Clone Wars, you'll see that Ahsoka Tano came back and she met with Anakin. And literally, this last episode, she had a brilliant fight, one of the best lightsaber battles in Star Wars, period. Versus, and it drew parallels to Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight in Revenge of the Sith, episode 3 of Star Wars. And they were in a warehouse on a beam up there and fighting, and Maul had really tried to lure in Kenobi, and he wanted to really kill Kenobi and, get his revenge after being, sliced in half. And if you followed Clone Wars and you followed Star Wars Rebels, which was also very good, you know the fate of how Darth Maul survived being chopped in half, even though it suspends a lot of disbelief. But he's from Dathomir, and the Sisters of Dathomir is really awesome story there, and how he comes back from all that, but he's just pure rage. And anyway, what's very interesting, it's really, Clone Wars is really filling in that bit of what would you call it, that it was filling in like some of those plot holes possibly, and it's fixed a few actually in Revenge of the Sith, between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And literally this last episode was where Ahsoka, she needed help with back on Mandalore, and because the kind of crime syndicate that Maul had put together, he realizes that he is just as flawed as Count Dooku was, and he knows Darth Sidious, and he tells Ahsoka the plan that Darth Sidious is controlling the Senate. So we're literally hours, if not even an hour or so, or directly right before, in this last episode, we're right before Obi-Wan and Anakin go off to do what they're supposed to do. And Anakin reports to the Chancellor, and then comes back, and tells Mace Windu that, he's the Sith Lord and all that. And then Mace goes to confront Palpatine, and the rest of the story. And so and then Anakin, of course, turns to the dark side so he can save Padme. But you get to see that lighthearted mentor-mentee relationship that he had with Ahsoka, and the respect all the clones had for Ahsoka, even though she left the Jedi Order. It was Sidious pulling the strings, as he always does, And so we have all of that going on. And it's just a really fascinating, really good episode. It was just so action-packed. And it was cool to see how Dave Filoni which George Lucas has, I think, been on set and, talking with him. So, anything George Lucas does, this is his baby. Whatever Disney did to the Disney trilogy or sequel trilogy, whatever you want to call it. It had its good parts, but it had its bad parts too. But the thing that they're doing right is Clone Wars, I think, and I think it's going to tie in really well, because we saw Darth Maul appear at the end of, was that Solo? I think it was Solo. Was it Rogue One? No, it wasn't Rogue One. It was Solo. And so, anyway, I'm getting off subject, but the cool thing is we get to see this wonderful fight, and they actually capture Darth Maul. And so Darth Maul, he ends up, Ahsoka saves him because she kind of defeats him, and he's going down, and she uses the Force, and she is able to keep him from falling, and so they captured him, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, these next couple episodes, tomorrow, and then on the fourth, when we close it out, is series of Clone Wars, the Clone Wars series. We're going to see how interesting it's all going to just come together. And so we're into Revenge of the Sith. So I love that they're putting that little bit of connective storytelling, tissue, as it were, into getting this done and getting it done correctly. So excited about that very much. But what are some of the announcements coming with May the 4th be with you, which, and also May the Force be with you. We're getting the series, I almost said season. It is season finale, but it's also a series finale of Clone Wars. We're also getting I want to say about 2 weeks early, we're going to get a release. And I think part of it's because of just tying it in, and it's 2 weeks, but Disney could use the revenue right now with production shut down and everything shut down in the industry, as far as we can see at this particular point. So we end up we're getting Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, released about 2 weeks early. So it's coming out on May 4th, along with the series finale of Clone Wars. Plus, we're getting a wonderful behind-the-scenes making of The Mandalorian. So that's going to even, whet our appetite for season 2 that's coming in, and all that. And you can't see in the studio here. Well, maybe I can grab it here, but for the camera, coming out of I've got a little background thing I'm trying out here, but there's my, I got this for my birthday. I don't know if you can see Baby Yoda there. If you're watching the video, there's Baby Yoda. So he's using the Force. He's waving at you. So there you go. So he's just sitting in on the show here. And anyhow, so I hope you get to see this. I mean, it's great that they're doing all this. And so this will really be a hyped up May the 4th for everybody. So that's pretty good. We talked about the next topic, and I'm just going to go briefly into it, but some of the things to watch while on this stay-at-home order, self-quarantine, whatever that we're doing. And one of them I saw, and I mentioned it on a previous episode, was the trailer to Train to Busan, and it's actually a sequel, Train to Busan to Peninsula. And so the trailer dropped about 4 weeks ago, so I know it's been a bit since I podcasted, and I'm excited to see exactly how it's going to turn out. And the trailer looks awesome. If you have not seen Train to Busan, a friend hipped me to this program. Definitely want to check it out. It's on Netflix. And speaking of Netflix, I think they've got another hit on their hands. And then this one is Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, Thor, but he's not playing the character of Thor. And David Harbour. It's directed by the Russo Brothers. It's a show, a film called Extraction. So, and this is something else, the Academy Awards, since we're pretty much not going to get much of a movie season, and we're basically around the time when Black Widow would have come out, which, is crazy to think it's, everything's been pushed back. We just found out that Mission Impossible 7 and 8 both got pushed back to November, and number 7 is in 2021. Number 8 of Mission Impossible is 2022. So they're kind of filming them back to back, and that's unfortunate. Maverick, Top Gun Maverick's going to get pushed back. Everything's pushed back. Fast 9 and stuff like that is pushed back. And Fast 9 kind of ties into what we're going to talk about in the next topic here. But Extraction with Chris Hemsworth Like I said, directed by the Russo brothers. He plays a character named Tyler Rake, and he's pretty much a mercenary in the black market, and he has to extract, hence the word extraction, the title of the kidnapped son of an imprisoned international crime lord. So this guy is kind of a black market guy. He's not like a really good guy. So we'll get to see some fantastic action in it. And so that's one to check out on Netflix, Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, directed by the Russo brothers, who did some of the best, if not the best, of the Marvel films like Civil War and, of course, Endgame and Infinity War in the Marvel Universe. And also the Russo brothers are in the news this week because they are pushing for when the theaters reopen to, before they get a lot of productions get up and running and they get films back out into wide release and everything, new films, they're going to maybe be showing some older films. And he said, the Russo brothers, they said actually that one way to really excite people would be to get Endgame and Infinity War back in theaters. And yes, it would be good to see both of those on the big screen again. I'm a little apprehensive of going in big crowds yet. I've been trying to do my part, not just for myself, but for everyone else. And, kind of staying put on things. So doing my best there. But I really hope that we see a lot of films come back. I would love to see like Back to the Future. Somebody was showing that. And I think locally there was around this area, there was a drive through and somebody said, yeah, we saw Back to the Future the other day. We saw this and that. So, it'd be nice to see, especially these 4K resolution films, the ones that have been redone, older films and, just really, classic films. If they come back to the theater, I'm tempted, if AMC still makes it through this, because they've pretty much are ready to or in the process of filing bankruptcy, and you can imagine. And that kind of leads us to our next bit of a topic here, and we're talking about it was first just AMC versus Universal. Now Regal seems to have jumped on board, and it's basically theaters versus streaming or video on demand. And so all this kind of, it's still evolving as we're speaking, but getting, or devolving, I guess you could say. But you basically have AMC, and they're upset with Universal Pictures over the video on demand because they released Trolls World Tour and made $100 million off of it. It didn't get its theatrical release, and that was by renting the film, not letting you own it yet, but just renting it, so people could basically stream it, rent it, and stream it, and then they would see it for. Slide my camera over here a little bit. I think I am, or maybe not. Okay, there we go. So I'm actually moving in the video. All right, sorry. Technical difficulties there. And by the way, I'm trying out some, if this episode sounds a little bit different, I'm trying out a new toy that I got, and I'm trying out a different way. I'm actually recording this on Zoom, recording a backup on Audacity on my computer, and I've been playing around the settings for the microphone, but I've got my XLR mic plugged into my new Rodecaster Pro, and I'm super excited to have that. So if this podcast sounds a little bit different, I've been playing with the compression and the noise gate, and so just trying to fine tune those. So if the final product of this doesn't sound like the normal sound quality you expect, I do want to apologize in advance. Also, I'm recording the Zoom video, so if this turns out, this will also be a video episode. And I'm really not good at looking at the video. I'm trying to look at the camera, but I'm also trying to interact properly. So you have to forgive me on that. And that's a little side note. I guess I should have said that in the beginning there. So anyway, back to the AMC Regal Universal debacle. And basically, AMC just said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to show any of Universal's films because basically Universal is said they're going to put the films out in theaters and on the same day, which this is something that's been floated around for years, but a lot of people streaming and all that, and especially people possibly not, flooding out back into theaters, which I really, at first I thought, the pent up anxiety of staying home, you'd want to go to the theater, but there's still not, as of April 30th, 2020, when I'm recording this, there's still not a viable vaccine. They have some with promise, but we don't have a definitive vaccine yet. So people don't know if this pandemic's going to go, if it's going to strike back up, like a second wave is going to come through in the fall, and because we're about to head in the summer basically. And so we're going to see what happens with all that, and how people take social distancing and all that stuff that we've been doing since mid-March when the world turned upside down. But it's affected everything. And I haven't podcasted much because I like to talk about film and movies, and there hasn't really been much to talk about. And I did do some episodes where I just kind of spoke from the heart and did some Facebook Lives to accompany that. And you can see those on I think they're on Geek Homeworld Facebook. And anyway, so what I'm trying to say is basically that, Universal's looking at that. So they're looking at the possibilities of releasing stuff on the same day that they're in theaters. And generally you have a 4 to 6 week commitment. That's why you see The Irishman by Scorsese. You see that coming to video on demand. I mean, to Netflix, and they did actually put it in a cinema. So the Academy Awards were looking at, okay, it's not technically, if it's not in theaters, it can't be a film, but they technically didn't have at least like one showing of that. So, the whole model of things are changing, and this may have actually AMC's financial troubles. And now Regal's jumping on board against Universal. They're trying to do. AMC and Regal is trying to keep the experience with the new releases, with the tentpole releases, and every release. They want to maximize their profits, obviously, and they're not wrong in that. But they want to make sure that people come out to get on. And come to theaters and see the films when they come out. And so that's totally understandable. Now, the other part of it is you've got Universal who wants to do both. They say, okay, you can release it in theaters, but we're also thinking of doing video on demand the same exact day. So there will be a lot of people that will choose to stay home. And maybe in this new world, in this new environment, post-pandemic or part of pandemic, many people may go for the $20, rental to see a film. But if you really don't have a great TV kind of setup, unless you care for all that, me personally, I love the experience of being in a theater. And, there's certain films like The Irishman by Scorsese that needs to be seen on the, on the big screen. There's other ones, of course, like Star Wars and stuff like that. There's nothing like being with a crowd of people that are so enthusiastic to see a film like that, an event kind of tentpole film. So, I'm excited for that possibility. Now, so in one corner you got AMC and Regal. They're the theaters. They said, well, here's what's going to happen. Okay, Universal on the other side of it, if you're going to go straight to video on demand and or release it in theaters, we're not going to release any Universal titles. AMC said that. Then Regal jumped on board, which doesn't affect me here because we don't have a Regal in town. And we've got one of our AMC theaters and depending if AMC goes belly up, then I don't think they will. I think somehow they're going to survive or get bailed out or run this massive deficit because they were about $5 million in the hole. And AMC actually that quarter going right into March when the coronavirus really started to close down theaters and such, they made their first profit ever off of AMC A-List, which I love. And it allows me to see 3 films a week. And I miss going into the theater and seeing 3 films a week. I've seen I saw a lot of films, especially in 2019, being part of that program. And so I personally like the program. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's, really wonderful. And so I'm hoping to get back to that experience, but I have mixed feelings about how soon and how clean and how, healthy it'll be to go back into the cinemas when they open up and everything gets rolling like it's supposed to. But what I'm looking at also is the fact that I think that we're going to see that um, there'll be people that don't want to get back into all of this, and they may not, rush out to the theater, and they might want that video on demand option. But how does this affect things? Well, this affects a lot. One of them is Fast 9, which has been pushed back anyway, but there's a laundry list of films that fall under Universal, some tentpole films, and if they pull those films, that's going to be something else. It's going to be very, very different. It's going to be I don't know how this is going to end up. So just a little freaked out about the whole situation, and I hope they can learn to kind of coexist. The theaters and streaming, and I hope for the best to come of all this. And I don't mind the video on demand options, honestly, though I'm not going to really pay. I think initially, I don't want theaters to go away. I don't want that to become a thing of the past, because I've enjoyed the theater experience so much. Even before A-list was a thing, I was always going to movies. I could live in a movie theater. That's how excited I am to, be not just working in the film and TV industry, but actually to go see films. And so I'm super excited. I'm hoping that I will, find that experience again. I hope I'll be able to rediscover that. So that's about all I have for this episode. I want to thank everybody who's listened. Please let me know what your thoughts are, and hit us up on our YouTube channel. You can go over there and like and subscribe. These audio podcast versions of the podcast will always show up there, and I'll try to get this video version up there too. And if it turns out well, I'll also have this video version. Even if it doesn't, I may still upload it to Facebook, Geek Homeworld. So please go to Geek Homeworld, click that like button there, and follow on Geek Homeworld on Facebook, and you can see some updates and stuff we have, and plus this video, this live episode, this video episode. And I'm working more on the video. Like I said, I'm playing around with the sound, so hopefully this comes out really well. If the video doesn't sound good, just listen to the audio version. I may just post the Audacity version also as an MP3, and push it out to. Well, of course I'm going to put it on. That's how I have to put it on the podcast through Libsyn, so it'll go out there to all the different places. Google Podcast. There's a bunch of others that Geek Homeworld is on, and so anyway, so. Check out Extraction. Let us know what you think. If you've seen it already at this time, let us know what you think. It's pretty awesome. And so we've got, and what are your thoughts on AMC and Regal versus Universal? And I'm sure as movie fans, you're not ones to, who knows? I mean, it may come out different sides of it. That's what's wonderful, our differing opinions of things. But has the world changed so much that we're going to give up the theater experience? I don't think so, but it's still hard to say, when people will feel comfortable taking their families, taking their loved ones, if they're older, or even if they're younger, or in between. I mean, are people going to feel comfortable? Are they going to feel safe going into theater again, and paying $400 for a drink and popcorn? But I wish they could make that better. But I do hope that AMC survives. I hope that Regal survives. I hope all the theater chains. Cinemark, I know, was also going through some bad times. So it's just crazy all around. So hopefully things are going to get better. I want all you to take care of yourselves, stay healthy. Follow us at Geek Homeworld on Twitter. Let us know your thoughts and opinions, and maybe we'll include them in the next episode of the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. This is a Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and goodbye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, Savage Tech Man. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.